I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item C, adjustments to the agenda.
Yes, Mrs. Thomas, for you and the members of the board, we do have two items. Would ask for your consideration for amendments. Would be to add to item J, new business, the following items. Item 11, discussion and consideration of an adult education diploma proposal from Director Sargent, and renumber the negotiations to number 12. And add number 13, discussion of a confidential component of the emergency management plan with an executive session.
I make a motion to adjust the agenda as recommended by the superintendent.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Thank you.
5-0. Thank you. Item D, approval of minutes for July 10, 2018.
I move that we approve the minutes of the July 10th, 2018 board meeting as presented.
Second. Discussion? All those in favor? 5-0. Thank you. Item F, public participation. Having none. Item G, administrative board reports. Mr. Clifford.
Good evening. You have my report. The JMG, I sent you a link to their website, and Jake Hackett, he's going to be here in the September meeting to answer any questions that you have. So you can read that over, and I thought it would give him a good 4 weeks to instill the program at Ellsworth High School, and then he can report out to you how it's going, and you can answer any questions at that time. I would like to go over the data that I put on your table. And this is data from last year, and it's the grade breakdown. And it's good news. So if you look at it, it's split up by grade. So grade 9, grade 10, grade 11, grade 12. And in left-hand column, its quarters 1, 2, and 3. And then in the right-hand column, the final grade or the fourth quarter grade, and that's after summer school. So you can see the progress that our students made throughout the year. And it's a good reminder that last year, or 2 years ago, we had to have a 70 or above to pass, and this year is a 77 or above to pass. And so our numbers last year, if you look at the ninth graders, the failure rate this year was 6.35%, which is very low. The year before was 8.3%. If you look at the 10th grade, this year's failure rate was 7.92%. The year before was 12.7%. And if you look at the juniors, this year was 5.04%, and last year was 17.4%. So those are huge jumps. And then the senior class, 6.5%, and the year before was 12.02%. So I was really happy with those numbers, and I shared some of these with some teachers that were in today, and a couple students, and so we're really happy with it. It's a combination of you supporting the vacation schools, the after-school program that we have, and our summer program. I think those are the biggest reasons why, and obviously a lot of work by the students and a lot of work by faculty and staff and parents. So anytime you have less than 8% in all 4 grades, I think that's great. It really is. A lot of high schools will have 12, 15 to 20% failure rate, and we don't have any of those, not even close to that. So I was really happy with these numbers. Any questions?
So on the left side of the document,
Yep.
these are this was before the final grade.
Right.
So there was a higher failure rate prospectively, but then it was by the time the final grades were
Yeah.
issued that
Yep.
That
So
had
what
gone-
he's talking about is after the third quarter for the ninth graders, the failure rate was 14.81%.
Mhm.
And then at the end of the school year, just 6.35% freshmen actually fail the course.
Mhm.
So those are big jumps, and it goes into, I think our teaming, all of March, April, May, our teams were really meeting with students and what's going on, are they going to pull this out along with teachers? And in the end, most of the students did pull it out, is what it tells us. Took advantage of the after-school program.
Mhm.
It really helped, and summer school. Yep.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks,
Thank you. Ms. Gabbianelli?
Good evening. Today I had 16 teachers volunteer their time to come in, and we planned for opening days of school. We really wanted to do some special things the first week of school to get students engaged and want to be at Ellsworth Middle School. So teachers volunteered their time today and came in, and we have a great plan in place, and we're ready for the start of school. So we're really excited. We're still looking for ed techs, so if anybody is interested in becoming an ed tech, please apply. The applications are located on the district website. We still have a couple of coaching vacancies, working on filling those. I think we're getting closer, but if anybody is interested in applying for soccer, please, again, apply. Applications are on the district website. And to parents and students, homeroom letters have been out with their supply list. They were sent out on August 6th, so people should have received those by now. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to call the school. Any questions? Great, thank you.
Thanks, Erica.
Ms. Lewis?
So I'm still getting my feet wet and learning many things every minute of every day. The principal's report is sort of generalized. It won't be that way going forward, but it is at this point. I will say I've been amazed at the number of staff members who've been in. We have new staff members, and some of our senior and more experienced staff members have come in and seen that we have new staff members there and make a beeline and do that informal mentoring that is absolutely vital. So for Tammy and Allie, who are here tonight, I mean, they've already had people saying, "Yay, we're glad you're here, and here's here's some things we can do to help." And that's all about the school climate, and I love that. We still have 2 more positions, so never mind what she said. I need ed techs too. And by the way, if you've ever taught 3rd or 4th grade and you're really, really good at it, enthusiastic, energetic, because we want the best for the kids, but we're still looking for those to fill those 2 positions. So I'm sure we will succeed, but we really do want the best, and the screening process is part of our challenge because we only want the best. As you look down through, the numbers that I wrote to you on August 8th are certainly no longer true. We've been having students move in at all grade levels, K through 4. I know Erica's getting some too, probably as many as we are. And they're coming from everywhere. They're coming with a variety of strengths and challenges. So as we continue on, we're meeting parents and we're trying to make sure kids are placed in the best possible place for their optimal learning. We'll continue doing that, but between Bev and Sherry, it's been amazing to watch them in action. They make everybody feel comfortable, and the goal, especially as students enter our school and have for the first time and haven't been there before, is to ensure that they have a sense of belonging and a sense that they're going to be valued so they can be comfortable and give us our best possible work. So staffing, building and maintenance. I met with the custodians yesterday, sort of informally on the front end, and then it turned into a meeting. And they are an incredible team of people who want to make sure that building is spotless. And they're doing everything that they can. I think that's somewhat uncommon in many schools, that the spotless characteristic is linked to the learning And they understand that a well-organized learning environment makes all the difference in the world, and they verbalize that. So we're a team of 7 of them going through the building yesterday, and when they stopped for 20 seconds, we had a nice conversation about how fortunate we are that we have the staff that manages those children in their learning, and that we have the support staff all through the building, the cooks, the custodians, the bus drivers, everybody working together and understanding that everyone has an equal and valuable role, and that we can't do without any one of those. So that was sort of a wonderful thing for me to be able to have a conversation with him about. Not always is that the case. I've had some meetings with the state, some representatives from the state, and our new reading liaison for our Momentum program, which I'm learning more and more about. We have a webinar tomorrow. Rachel and I will be involved in that. But I was pleased to see that they feel as though this program that we agreed to is actually making a difference, and they're getting ready to share data with me that will help me to understand that even better and give me a definitive role as the leader of that school in order to be able to help. I also met with Miranda Lambert, who I was so amazed that was her real name. She's wonderful, from the PTF this morning, because what I'm hoping to do is make sure that all the resources that we have that can add in to our core curriculum are utilized and valued, and that people see that there's a good reason to help out at the Ellsworth Elementary Middle School, and that there'll be people who recognize what those things are. I guess that's about it. Again, just trying to put it all together, the climate, curriculum, and community. I'll report more on building usage because you have a lot of it, and I think you need to know, and the community at large needs to know how frequently and how much that building is used. It's not just for the school, and that's huge when we talk about taxpayer involvement and taxpayer appreciation. So, anybody have any questions I might be able to answer? I'm still having an awful lot of fun. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mrs. Bowles' report on HCTC was given to us in written form. She's not here this evening. And Ms. Sargent. How's everybody doing tonight?
Great, doing well. How about you?
Great. We've had a great summer. It's been busier than I thought, with a lot of changes at the state level in terms of requirements for reporting and so on. But we're, Marilyn, Starling, and I are working on the catalog, and things are going well. So enrollment is underway for our academic and job training programs, and so now is a good time. I actually met with 8 people today who are coming into our program, and so now is a great time to start that process. For people who don't know about how we do our enrollment, it takes a couple of weeks to go through that process, because we meet with you, you do some assessment, and then we meet with you again. So it's a pretty thorough process before you come to the school the first time. So now's a good time, and our classes start the second week in September for the most part. I am really excited always about career advising and supporting people, giving them meaning for the work that they're doing, their academic work. And so I'm taking this course, which I haven't taken in a while, on career advising. And so it's inspired me to really infuse career readiness in a different level than we've done it in the past. So that's going to be a priority this year, as well as really deepening the collaboration with the organizations, the job training organizations, and post-secondary programs in the region. Our CNA program, I just handed out a flyer. The schedule is set, and it's 3 days a week, so it's pretty intensive, and it also is completed in only 10 weeks, which is great. One of the things that we found last semester is that we spent 2 nights a week at the Hancock County Technical Center, and it was so great to be in their lab. Our classes have generally been during the day. And so this year we have a little bit of a different schedule, where we're having and one evening a week in the lab. And so we have one class that meets from 12 to 8:30 or 8 so that we can be in the lab in the evening. And the classroom is at Seaport Village Healthcare. And then we're following, for the last semester we did it, but we're actually doing a regular nursing shift from 7 to 3 for the clinical, and most of that will be at Seaport unless we can get into other locations. We'll probably go to Cortland in any case. And then 9 to 3:30 is the other class on Thursday. So spread the word if people know of anybody, because the facilities are screaming for CNAs. So it's a great entry position into a whole wealth of different careers in healthcare. So our catalog, we hope, will be hitting the streets right after Labor Day. And many of our enrichment classes will start the last week in September and the first week in October. And I'll be talking a little bit later in the agenda about our adult diploma plan. So, any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Annie.
Ms. Corman Ramos, Curriculum Coordinator. Good evening. I have a couple things to show you. See if this will come out or not. Sorry. We had it, but I didn't want you to be overwhelmed with numbers. Sorry, I was close. Thank you. I'll do this. Thank you, April. Good evening. To start with, I wanted to tell you about the summer school program. It was a wonderful success. I want to thank Nicole Parody, Rebecca Maddox-Wilbur, Diane Sear, Jen Legassi, Helen Cochran, and Amanda Trago for doing a really wonderful job and for sharing their summer for the benefit of our Ellsworth students. 39 students learned science and math with experimentation and journaling. They read in small groups based on their reading needs. In the middle school, Mrs. Sear worked with several students who completed work on their standards from the previous school year and prepared for the year ahead. The Ellsworth School Department provided scholarships for 24 of the students who were interested in attending the Y Camp at Webb Pond in the afternoons of July. So we had a dual program where they came to summer school in the morning and were able to go to Webb Pond. Compliments of all of you to be able to participate. And so we really believe that program has made more students be able to come to our summer school, whereas families are looking for full day programming. And so it's really enabled them to participate in both, which is a pretty great summer. So very proud of that program. Opening days, our training schedule is developing. Our teachers will be trained on Go Math in grades K through 8 and the HMH program in the high school. It's kind of some brush-up training following up from our rolling out the program at the beginning of last year. We'll also provide available office hours with our IT staff on our reporting system for Jump Rope. Jen Stanchfield, a practitioner of experiential education and team building, will be working with many of our teachers. And Kathy Gage, reading interventionist and instructional coach, will be providing updates and training at the elementary school on Fountas and Pinnell. There's some updates to the program that we want to share with teachers and make sure we're all learning them together. And our new teacher orientation will be held on Tuesday, August 28th. In summer professional development, this summer we've provided and are providing time for teachers to come together for professional development, including a new mentoring program and a renewal and re-energized version of peer coaching at the high school. We just had the peer coaching program today with Julie Kablinski and Rebecca Lehman from MDI sharing a model they're working on, and also through the state and the Maine Curriculum Leaders Association that we're very excited about. We're providing structured time to learn about the capacities of the Atlas curriculum management system. We're adding explicit instruction and fluency and comprehension in middle school, and
learning about a new math screening tool for grades K through 5 that's been developed by Cheryl Toby, who is both a math coach and in the math department at DOE, as well as our deep liaison and superintendent's liaison to the DOE. She's been a really wonderful asset and is doing an excellent 3-day training for our teachers. I was very excited because we put the opportunity out to our teachers, and almost every single teacher asked to come in and wanted to learn about a new tool. So our teachers are always looking for new ways to work with our kids, and we should all be really proud of that. And now today we're going to look very quickly at the Title I and II application for funding. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Not sure what our district would do without April. So every year we want to share how we are spending our title grants. We have several funding sources beyond our local budget that include Title I, which is for economically and academically challenged students. Title II, which is for professional development. Title IV, which meets several needs, including safe school environments and cross-curricular programming, and Title V, which does something similar. And so after putting all of our pieces together, we wanted to share with you the kind of projects that this funding covers, and also let the community know that this is posted on our website under school supports. You'll be able to view this application over the next 2 to 4 weeks and send in any feedback or comments that you have as the process of getting the application approved by the state is happening. So if there's changes that we sense are necessary based on community feedback, we can make those. So just some general categories, the things that I spoke about as far as professional development, which include Jen Stanchfield in the experiential learning and team building. We're also having Ken O'Connor, who's an international consultant on formative and summative assessment, join us this year in Thanksgiving time when we're doing our professional development. You'll see that there are different categories and different projects that we are able to fund. And just to go through some of these, at the Ellsworth High School, you'll see here, these are the different funding sources. We're allowed to now use a variety of grants to meet certain projects at different schools. It used to be structured differently, and now we are able to kind of jigsaw puzzle the pieces together to make sure they're meeting all the requirements of the grant for the different components of each of the programs and projects that we want to see launched in our school district. So you'll see here, the first one that's listed here is the Ellsworth High School, and this year we're supporting the new mentoring program so that teachers can work one-on-one with students who need support and need one-on-one discussions and follow through, in addition to all the teaming and the wonderful things we are doing, as evidenced by Mr. Clifford's statistics, which are pretty exciting. We're also going to be having this new peer coaching program, which is kind of a reinvigoration of a previous program with some twists about student-centered coaching. At the Ellsworth Elementary Middle School, this is the bulk of our grant here, and this supports our Title I interventionists. We have 4 interventionists, as well as half of the salary of our instructional coach. And so those folks are included in the Title I piece, and the Title II piece for the Ellsworth Elementary Middle School also includes Jen Stanchfield and Ken O'Connor. We then have the Title 1A homeless set-aside, so we can support students who may need backpacks or clothing or however they need support. We have Title 2A teacher quality, and this program here includes salaries and stipends for our curriculum instruction and assessment team. It includes this year our support for the K-8 leadership team, which used to be funded under a different grant, and we're now going to be able to support that here. Let's see, we also have additional professional development. You'll see here, Ken O'Connor will be coming and working with us on our professional development focus this year, which is learning more about formative and summative assessment and rubrics and grading for learning. And you'll see here too that we have a private school project for Graham Lake School. Part of our Title II and Title IV funds are earmarked by the state to support our private school that we are connected to. And this year, I'm very excited that with the liaison of Carol Ann McEachern-Murphy, he's been doing an amazing job as the Assistant Director of Special Ed, and working with them and joining us all together. We are joining to have collaborative professional development between the schools. So, for instance, Kathy Gage will be working with us, and then she'll also be going to work with them. They are attempting to mirror some of the assessments we have here, and some of also the materials. They're interested in adopting Go Math, for example, and using our same assessments so that as the kids go between schools, it's easier for them, so that they are on the same scale and can have an easier transition between the two schools. So I'm very excited about that. It's going to be a wonderful partnership that's already been developing. And then finally, we have student engagement and attendance here, and that is including, for example, we have some additional project materials for our 8th grade. Where in our 8th grade, we're going to be having more hands-on opportunities and project-based learning in physical science. This is also the piece that will be supporting our partnership with the Grand, where our students will be able to have the outreach educator come to the school and work with them. Last year, we did that through the support of the Grand and through PTF. This year, I'm pleased to report that the PTF has continued their support of sending every child at EEMS to the Grand once this year. And now we will be matching the costs with the Grand of having the outreach educator come not only K-8, but also K-12. So that's an exciting addition to our programming. So we have a lot of exciting things happening. We've been working on these for a while, and we were able to kind of jigsaw our funds together and create this number soup here that I think will bring some exciting opportunities to our school district. Do you have any questions? Again, you will be able to go online at the Ellsworth School Department's website, and if you go to the Parent tab and look under School Supports, you'll be able to find the application. And if our community would like to review it and has any questions or comments, they will be able to email me, and the email address will be attached. Thank you.
Rachel, I just have a quick question. What does HMH stand for? You mentioned at the high school?
Houghton Mifflin Harcourt.
Okay.
And AGA is Algebra, Geometry, Algebra 2.
Okay, thank you.
That was an easy one. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Mr. Higgins, our superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mrs. Thomas. Members of the board, members of the audience, members of the viewing public, I'd like to start off tonight by, on behalf of the school department, staff, and students, expressing appreciation to Natalie Knox and Star 97.7 FM and the First National Bank for hosting and sponsoring the 4th annual Pack the Backpack promotion back on July 28th. I'd also like to thank all of you that were able to show up and not just donate, but lend your voices to the radio. I know they really appreciate school staff members being interviewed. But as you know, the event has grown over the past 4 years, and it's yet another example of the community and business involvement in support of our schools and our students. I'd also like to express thanks to all the generous people who donated supplies, and I would also mention this year we had people donate over $200 in cash and said please use them for the benefit of students. So certainly that program is growing, and Mrs. Knox has already provided us a date for the end of July for next year's event. So it tells me that it's going very well. To piggyback on what Mrs. Lewis said, I'd like to mention one portion of our support staff, recognizing our custodial and maintenance staff for the excellent work they've done over the summers. If you've driven through and around our school properties, you'll notice that they look fantastic. They've completed and overseen a number of maintenance projects, renovation projects, and safety upgrade projects. And the building grounds look great, and we're on schedule for the beginning of the opening of school in September. But I did want to report one of the things at the high school that we've been doing over the past couple of years, and it's really taken shape this year, is transitioning the old color of trim paint that was used on the windows and the doors when the school was initially built back in the mid-90s from the bluish color that it has been to a school color. It's called Cabernet, but it really looks like it's a maroon. But I mention this because if you look at the gymnasium at the high school where the big circular window used to be painted that blue, it's now that deep burgundy color, and it really stands out. But one thing I noticed during the week, not only are custodial and maintenance staff doing an outstanding job, and they're being productive, but they're also enjoying themselves. I was sent a picture of that project partially completed. Mrs. Thomas, you're chuckling because you probably know what this is all about. Well, what the picture showed was the window painted about 1/3 of the way, and it had the words "Go Sox" painted on it. So I've commenced an investigation and am working to try to find out. I've narrowed it down to 2 of our employees, and I'm not sure whether I'm going to give them a commendation or a reprimand. I think at this point, because the Red Sox are so far ahead, Paul, we'll have to give them a commendation begrudgingly.
Begrudgingly.
Okay. But in any event, no, they were having a good time, and I thought it was a well-intended, I can call it a prank, I guess. But really, our staff is doing a fantastic job, and if you see them, please compliment them on the work that they've done. I'd also like to recognize our school administrators and teaching staff. We talked about this last summer, but I'd like to echo it again this summer. The members of the leadership team and our teachers have really continued their work over the summer months, moving forward on our plan for implementing a fully fledged proficiency-based instructional system. Based on experience that we gathered over the past year and feedback we received from staff and students over the year, we've made a number of modifications to our program that will be fully implemented this year. And the modifications are designed to make it more user-friendly for students, more logistically appropriate for students and staff, so that students can complete their work in a timely fashion, and teachers are able to not have to deal with makeup work that's 3 and 4 months behind. But they've really done a great job in putting those pieces in place. And I mention that this evening because, as we all have seen reported in the news over the past couple of weeks, legislature in Augusta unfortunately had made the decision to make the awarding of proficiency-based diplomas optional. Certainly understand that that's how the legislature works, but I know in our conversations at the board level, conversations around the table with our leadership team and with teachers, we're committed to the work that our teachers have been doing over the past 6 to 7 years to craft the best possible educational program for our students. What we're doing, we all believe in. It's going to be to the benefits of students. It's going to increase student achievement, and that's what it's all about. So, again, commendations to the staff that have focused all of their energies and attention on improving our system during the summer months. We know they work hard during the school year, but I think it's important for the members of our public to know they really work hard during the summer as well. A few other items I would like to report on. We have a number of staff members here that the Personnel Committee has approved on your behalf, and we'll recognize 4 of those 5 who are here this evening in a few minutes. But we would like to go through a list of people who were hired since your last meeting, and it's a fairly lengthy list. You can see how else your administrators have been busy this summer. So we have returning to work in the Ellsworth School Department, Mo Young, who will be driving a bus for us again. Mark Jenkins, who will be serving as an instructional technology technician. Dwayne Bradford, another former bus driver, is coming back to us. As ed techs at EEMS and special education, we have Beth Bolio, Amber Kirby, Danielle Williams. At Ellsworth High School in special education ed tech, Marguerite Molnar. As an ed tech in OSHA and multiple classrooms at HCTC, Tara Mason. Ed tech in special education at EEMS, Patricia Leland. Custodian second shift at EEMS, James Taylor. In the food services department, Marcy Duhame. Special education ed tech at Ellsworth High School, Deb Cilia. Special education ed tech at EEMS, Chelsea Wallace. As Mr. Clifford mentioned earlier, former ed tech here in Ellsworth, who's now our Jobs for Maine graduates teacher, Jacob Hackett. A familiar name, one of our retirees who seems to keep wanting to come back. It tells you how great a place it is to work. Pat Bruce will be rejoining us at EEMS as an ed tech. Stacy Wood will be joining us as a licensed clinical social worker this year at EEMS. That's a new position that you approved earlier in the budget process. And we've hired a couple of new coaches. Joey Torciello will be coaching JV volleyball at the high school, and Jamie Anderson, our media teacher, will be coaching cross country as an assistant at Ellsworth High School. So even with all that work that's done, the list of vacancies that we have, it is getting smaller, but there is still a list there. So for anybody who is interested, we have the following vacancies. We are still looking for a mathematics teacher at Ellsworth High School. We're looking for a Section 504 teacher and or case manager for the middle school and the high school. As Mrs. Lewis mentioned earlier, grade 3 and grade 4 teaching positions at EEMS, a math teacher at Hancock County Technical Center, auto diesel ed tech at Hancock County Technical Center, and early childhood ed tech at HCTC. And we're also looking for a technology integration teacher for the school department. And you heard many of our principals mention ed techs. We have the following numbers of vacancies left. At EEMS, and that's grades K through 8, we have 9. At the high school, we have 3. And at HCTC, we still have 2, although 2 of those are pending. I'd like to mention some letters of resignation and retirement that we received since you last met. Ginger Stoneton, technology integration teacher at the Delsler School Department, has taken a job closer to home. Deb Netter, who's taught grade 2 here for the past 11 years, has moved closer to home. Heidi Thacker, who taught speech and language pathologist for the past year, has returned home. I just mentioned Jake Hackett, who is resigned as an ed tech but is moving on to a teaching job. And a familiar name here, Doug Libby submitted a letter of retirement back in January of this calendar year. And in that letter, he said he would be submitting a more formal letter later on. Well, I guess this is later on, so it's in your packet tonight. I think it's circulating this evening. So it's hard to believe that we'll be starting school in a couple of weeks. But just to remind our viewing public out there, new staff orientation is going to take place on Tuesday, August 29th at EEMS. On your report, it says 2017. That's not accurate. That'll be 2018. The first 2 days of in-service would be Wednesday and Thursday, 30th, 31st. And Mr. Daly, just to verify it with you, we'll be doing breakfast on that Wednesday morning, and our board members are invited to come in, be part of that process, and you would like them here at 5 a.m.? 7 a.m. 7 a.m. So if you would like to come and be part of that process, again, Mr. Daly is inviting you, and would like to have you there at 7. First day for students in pre-K through grade 9 will be September 5th, and the first day for all students would be Wednesday, September 6th. Unless you have any questions, that concludes my report.
Who was, when Doug Libby first started here, who hired him?
I believe it was a man named Dale Higgins. We've had a little bit of that happening over the past couple of years.
Yes, we have.
Yeah, this was a very nice letter.
Yeah.
Coming from a very nice man.
Mm-hmm.
Item H, committee reports.
The policy committee met. We reviewed the 15 policies of Section K, which covers school, community, and home relations. We propose minor changes to 3 of the policies, which we will discuss later. One policy we are tabling to discuss at the next workshop. We have 4 policies that are going for a second read with no changes. And we also discussed fundraising activities and habits of work, which both need to be discussed with the full board at our next workshop.
Any other? I know the Personnel Committee's been very busy.
We've been busy because we've been authorized by the full board to hire teachers so that we can get them, so they don't have to wait till the next board meeting. And so we've done a number of hires, and we've also been working to get negotiations rescheduled with the administrative assistants, and we have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow evening for that.
And the Finance Committee has met. We met last week, and we'll be discussing our decisions that we're going to bring forth to you a little later.
It's certainly been a busy month for the committees, and I think it's important that you present that information now so that the members of our public know just how much work you do. It's not just a matter of coming here once a month and doing the work that you do here, but there's a lot of work behind the scenes, so it's much appreciated.
Thank you. Item I, old business, we have none. Item J, new business, acknowledgement of Personnel Committee's action on behalf of the board.
Well, and as Mr. Markosian just said, the Personnel Committee has been busy over the past several weeks, meeting on three occasions for teachers, and they have confirmed nominations on your behalf for 5 teachers, and 4 of them are here this evening. So before we go through the bio of them, my question for you is, would you like to take them individually, or would you like to take them as a group? We're going to recognize them regardless, but how would you like to take them as a board?
As a group.
As a group.
Okay. Let me start with the individual who is not able to be here this evening. As a special education teacher at Ellsworth High School, former ed tech Kristen Hardison. Mrs. Hardison is being recommended by the interview committee for the grade 9 special ed position as a result of her successful experience working in the special ed department at Ellsworth High School and other related experiences. The committee was impressed with her experience working in the Ellsworth system and with the EHS staff and believes she'll make a nice transition from her ed tech position to the position of classroom teacher. Additionally, experiences working as a case manager at Kids Peace New England and at the Maine Department of Health and Human Services have provided with their increased knowledge and background of the IEP process and the understanding of student needs. We believe she'll be a solid beginning teacher for Ellsworth High School. The other 4 teachers that were confirmed by the Personnel Committee are here this evening, so I'd like to recognize them. First, I'd like to introduce to you physical education teacher, EEMS, health teacher at Ellsworth High School, Dellen Patterson. Mr. Patterson is being recommended for the combination EHS Health and EEMS PE teacher position. The committee was impressed by his knowledge, background, and enthusiasm for teaching, and in particular for physical education. His student teaching experiences range from elementary to secondary grade levels, and he gained much experience in those experiences, but also working with adaptive physical education, which will be a benefit to him as he begins his career. We believe he will be a solid beginning teacher and staff member for both EEMS and EHS.
Welcome.
Also here this evening was confirmed for a grade 2 teaching position at EEMS, Allison Briggs. Ms. Briggs was recommended by the interview committee for the grade 2 position at EEMS. She completed successful student teaching experiences in grades 1 and 3 at the Eddington and Dedham schools respectively. She interviewed well with the committee and they were impressed by her depth of experiences during her field placements and her student teaching experiences. Her references are strong and the committee believes that she will be a solid member of the grade 2 team and a solid beginning teacher at EEMS. Also here this evening, coming in as the alternative education teacher at Ellsworth High School will be Christopher Betts. Mr. Betts is being recommended for the EHS alternative ed teaching position by the interview committee based upon his 20 years of experience working with at-risk youth and youth in poverty. He has 9 years of successful direct public and private school-based experience as a program director and teacher, in addition to experience as an outreach worker and residential counselor. His experiences both at the Shaw House in Bangor, both as a direct employee and as a teacher for the Carlton Project, which he operated out of the Shaw House, will provide a fit for the services he'll provide in our alternative education program. He'll be a strong addition to the faculty at EHS because of that experience. And also here this evening, another confirmed nominee for a grade 2 classroom teaching position, Tammy Perry. Mrs. Perry is being recommended by the interview committee for the grade 2 teaching position as a result of her 6 successful years of experience teaching grade 2. And she was clear in her interview that grade 2 is what she really enjoys teaching. The committee is impressed with her experience in literacy and assessment, solid knowledge of curriculum, and experience in proficiency-based instructional practices. They believe that she will also be a good fit with the grade 2 team. She had strong references, and we believe she will be a solid addition to the faculty at EEMS. So would like for you as a board to consider confirming and acknowledging the actions of the Personnel Committee.
I make a motion to acknowledge the Personnel Committee's action on behalf of the board in hiring the following staff with first-year probationary contracts for the 2018 through 2019 school year. Allison Briggs, Christopher Betts, Dellen Patterson, Kristen Hardison, and Tammy Perry.
I second that.
Discussion? All those in favor? 5 votes.
Welcome aboard, all of you.
Yes, congratulations.
Congratulations and
Thank
welcome.
you.
2, consideration of teacher nominations.
I think because of the efficiency of your Personnel Committee, we don't have any additional nominations to bring forward this evening. We do anticipate that committee convening again, not just for negotiations, but over the next couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
3, consideration of recommendation of administrative position.
The Personnel Committee met at 6 o'clock this evening over at the Superintendent's office, and I would defer to either members of the committee if they would like to make that nomination, or if you would prefer for me to do that, I can do that.
I can do it.
Okay?
So we met to recommend hiring of Travis Wood as the Ellsworth Elementary Middle School Assistant Principal and also Athletic Director. We wanted to authorize Dan to negotiate salary and a 2-year contract, and he came with great recommendations from his previous work, and looks like we'll have an important role that will be filled by an outstanding candidate.
Yeah, we've distributed a bio of Mr. Wood to you, and as you can see, he's got a solid educational background, solid experience. Committee was very much impressed with him, with his varied experiences as a teacher and a coach, which will fulfill the athletic director component of the piece. But in addition to his successful teaching experience, he spent the last 7 or 8 years, working at the Department of Ed in various data and standards-based positions. He's very well versed with standards and proficiency, has a solid instructional background, and is highly organized. Again, his references were solid. We feel very fortunate to get a candidate of this caliber at this time of the school year.
Mm.
Do you have a motion?
I make a motion to appoint, is that what we're saying here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, to appoint Travis Wood as the Ellsworth Elementary Middle School Assistant Principal, Athletic Director for a 2-year term commencing, when are we commencing, Dan?
August of 2018 would be sufficient, because depending upon your action, we still have to work with him on notice at his previous employment.
Okay, August 2018, and authorize the superintendent to execute a contract setting forth the terms and conditions of employment on behalf of the school board.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you.
5-0. Thank you. Item 4, consideration of lunch price increase for 2018-19.
I believe your packet includes the information, but Mr. Daly is here this evening. If you have any questions with regard to the recommendation for a minor price increase and the reasons why? Does the board have questions of Mr. Daly? If you do, we'll bring him right up to the podium.
Come on up, Mr. Daly.
Yes, ma'am.
So is this increase due to something that the state has done, or something because of what we need?
It's basically, there's an equity tool that we have to plug in our numbers based on October counts of how many
Okay.
paid students, and then it generates a price. And what they want to do is try to get as close to the amount of what they reimburse us for every paid person minus what they give us for every free person. And that difference is where they want us to end up, which is close to $3.
Okay,
So we went up a nickel
okay.
on the road.
So that's why, and I did notice it's rounded to the nearest
Down,
bottom.
yes.
Okay.
Good.
And this is probably a really good place to say to people that part of our Title I funds, Title II, Title IV, 5, comes
Much.
from our free and reduced lunch count. And so we really, really encourage people to apply for free and reduced lunch if you are at all eligible, even think you're eligible. Please apply. And are those forms online now on our website?
Those forms will be coming out shortly. We have a letter, and I'm going to mail them out to everybody in the district, and it'll include an application, and so hopefully they'll send those right back. That'd be great.
Okay.
In response to the website question, we are in the process of transitioning to a new web hosting provider,
Okay.
and there may be a possibility for us to make that information available through the new website.
Okay.
That's currently in process right now.
Yeah,
But if anyone has any inclination to make an application, we have them available
in our schools or through our administrative
Yes.
assistants in our schools. So
Yeah.
we encourage any families that might qualify, please do so.
Yeah, and the magic number is 50%, and we are very, very close to that.
And Ray, isn't it the case that we believe that there's families that could qualify for free and reduced who haven't applied for it in the past, and if those families did, it would not only benefit them, but it would benefit all Ellsworth residents, because if we could get to that 50% number or above it,
Yeah, that's
it
correct.
would reduce everyone's burden. So even if you're not a family that could qualify, if you know somebody who is, please encourage them to do it. It really is a win-win situation when we get full enrollment in free and reduced lunch. There's no stigma attached to it. The kids have, going through the line, they're just,
It's all
you
confidential.
can't tell who's on free and reduced and who isn't. So it really is, it's a good program because it gets everyone fed what they need to get fed. And if we can get that participation up over 50%, it will reduce everyone's financial burden.
And I think it bears repeating that point, that there is no stigma to it. But if people do have questions about how the confidentiality of students who are eligible is protected, they can certainly call, and Mr. Daly is very well versed in that, can explain to them just how we do it.
Mhm.
Our staff does a fantastic job. And you go and look at the lunch line,
Mm-hmm.
smooth sailing right through.
Yep.
And not only the confidentiality of the students receiving the benefits at the school, but also we need to express the confidentiality of the parents applying.
Definitely.
That piece is very well maintained as well.
That information is kept confidential, locked in a cabinet. No one sees it but me and the two managers that work with me.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very
Yes,
much.
ma'am.
Thank you. Make a motion to approve the lunch price increase for 2018, 2019 as recommended by the food service director.
Second.
I think one of the things that we didn't state is that it's a 5-cent increase per meal,
Yes.
correct? All right, thank you.
5-cent increase per meal, and just to reiterate, it's through a price equity tool that is required for use in school systems by the school lunch program.
Okay. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you.
Review and approval of the 2018-2019 student handbooks.
We provided you with electronic copies, I believe, the end of last week, for you at least to get a chance to look at. And as requested, you received hard copies this evening. Have received some feedback from some of you already, which has been passed on or will be passed on to our principals. I have also done the same thing. And I think that the purpose for this evening was to have you look at them and approve them with regard to content. And maybe rather than the recommended motion, approve them as presented, approve them as presented with appropriate amendments. Okay. That's a recommendation, but I will leave that to the board's discretion as to how you would like to do that.
Mr. Higgins, could you give us a timeline as to when we need to have all of our adjustments to you so that they can be made effective prior to printing or uploading for
If-
this year's school year?
If you have any feedback that you have not yet provided, you can send it to me by the end of this week.
Okay.
Okay? And I know that that's a process that I'm also doing, and I know that our principals and directors and their assistants are also doing. And then there would be sufficient time to get those adjustments made so that these can be distributed appropriately for the beginning of the school year.
And could you just speak to how we do our distribution now? Are we hard copy? Are we electronic only? Are we both?
I'm going to defer to our principals on that. Who'd like to handle that? Come on up, Mr. Clifford.
Raise his hand.
I think you were elected by your peers.
So if you do need a hard copy, we have some extras in the office, but not everybody gets a hard copy. But if you need one, we can provide one to
So
all
the
parents and
Students
Stu-
receive it electronically then,
Mhm.
Ms.
Yep.
Mr. Clifford?
Yeah, we just post it and email it to them, and then we have hard copies in the office.
And is there a sign-off? Did I see a sign-off? So is that also done electronically now?
Well, we're getting there, not yet. So for that, we have that sign-off piece of paper, that one piece of paper, we have extra copies in the office. So if they come in, they don't have their whole handbook, they can just sign off on that one sheet, so we're not wasting, a lot of paper. That's a high school anyway.
Thank you.
And you'll find that that's consistent across the other schools as well.
Okay.
And that's true for Title I documentation as well, as far as notification of parental rights and that kind of thing.
Well, I move that we approve the 2017-2018 student handbook as presented with the subsequent appropriate amendments that will be made to it.
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you.
5-0. Thank you. Item 6, second read of amended policies.
So we have 4 policies here for a second read, and none of these policies have changed since the first read at our last meeting.
Okay.
I move that we approve the second read and adopt the following amended policies as presented. JHB truancy, JICC student conduct on buses, JICH drug and alcohol use by students, and JICIA weapons, violence, and school safety.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Guess I don't move fast enough. Acknowledgement and acceptance of policy committee review.
The policy committee reviewed all of the policies in section K, school, community, and home relations, and the following policies had no recommended changes.
I move that we acknowledge and accept the review of the policies with no changes in section K as recommended by the policy committee.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. Now we have the first read.
That was first read, was.
Mm-hmm. Please.
Okay. Policy KCD, public gifts, donations to the school. The policy committee proposes that the language be changed so that the superintendent can accept gifts on behalf of the board. Policy KF, community use of school facilities. We propose that we add language that requires certain events to have the fire department do a walkthrough, like we would if we were having a school event such as prom. We would require users to have law enforcement coverage at their own expense instead of our expense, and pay for custodial expenses as well. And policy KFA, community use of our performing arts center, we would like to add language that requires users to pay for their own law enforcement when necessary.
Make a motion to approve the first read of the following amended policies as presented and recommended by the policy committee.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
If I could just add, as we recognize the Personnel Committee for the numerous meetings that they've had, and we do the Finance Committee during the budget year. Personnel Committee, by finishing Section K, that was the final section of the policy manual, which they've spent actually the last 10 or 11 meetings once a month reviewing the entire policy manual. There are still a few policies that have to have a couple of adjustments made, which will require conversation with the full board. But I think it's been a long process for the committee, and they've done well to do the review that they've done.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Acknowledge an acceptance of the truck purchase bid.
I believe this information was included in your packet. As you know, you didn't vote on it at your last workshop, but we did provide you the information because of the timing, requesting that you acknowledge acceptance of the truck bid as presented. And the recommendation was from Varney Buick for 2018 GMC 3500 HD Sierra.
I make a motion to acknowledge acceptance of the 2018 school truck bid as presented.
Second.
Discussion?
I would just like to acknowledge, Mr. Higgins, please help me with the gentleman's name who did all this research.
Charles Turnbull, Chuck. Yep.
Chuck, yes. I think he did a fantastic job really researching, looking for the best product and the best price for our community, and I thank him for that work.
I'll pass that on to him. Thank you.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? I vote.
Thank you.
Acknowledge an acceptance of irrigation contract bid.
And that was similar to the truck bid. We provided you with that information. As you know, through the bid process, there were two companies that responded. The one company that responded very quickly offered a bid to do all of the fields at a price, and we were able to work it out so that in addition to doing all of the fields and taking some equipment out of the budget that had been budgeted for, we were able to afford, within the existing budget, adding irrigation to all of our athletic fields in the school system. And that was from Williams Irrigation Systems.
I make a motion to acknowledge acceptance of the 2018 irrigation contract bid as presented.
Second.
Discussion?
Once again, nice work. Very nice job.
Pass that on to Mr. Turnbull. Thank you.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Thank you.
Discussion and consideration of athletic trainer bid.
I can defer to the Finance Committee if you'd like, or you can defer to me. It's your choice.
Yeah, I think I'm going to defer to you, although I might add a comment.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Thomas. As you know, providing athletic training services at EEMS and EHS has been something we've been advocating for the past several years in the budget process. This year was the year that we were able to keep that in the budget. So athletic directors Frost and Gabbianelli did put together a bid and submit it. We did have one company respond to the bid. This is Eastern Maine Medical Center Sports Health. What their bid provided was three options. One will be an option that provided all-inclusive service, which was coverage at all high school home events and all middle school events for which there is not a conflict in date and time. And when I say conflict in date and time, what I mean is if there's a event at Ellsworth High School, event at Ellsworth Middle School that occur at the exact same time, the high school event will take precedence. If it's a day in which there is an event at 3:30 at EEMS and at 6 o'clock at EHS, the trainers will cover both of the events. Okay. In addition to covering events in that fashion, they'll also be here for practices and to do injury rehab work and referrals for students. That's the all-inclusive model for $19,000. As you remember through the budget process, we anticipated that would be a higher amount of money, so we asked for bids for just game coverage, and that's how we built our budget. And I believe we budgeted about $15,600. The other two components of their proposal, one was a home event only proposal. That proposal was predicated on Eastern Maine not hiring a full-time trainer, and we could get the coverage for that cost. However, it would be at their availability. They're not able to sustain hiring a full-time trainer for game-to-game a la carte coverage. So we would be taking our chances as to whether or not we would have coverage at our events. The third component of the proposal was office hours, if you will, which is where they work with our student athletes with injuries and rehab and those types of services. Again, that would have been based on an a la carte model for which they would provide services based only upon availability. In looking at the three proposals and working with the administrators at the schools, we can find the $3,200 that we would need to make up the $1,900 within the existing budget. So the recommendation to the Finance Committee was to go with the all-inclusive model. Now, that all-inclusive model for $19,000, I think, is a good bargain. It will get us what we were looking to have. It will also provide us with the hours that we did not think we were going to have. The one piece we'll have to consider is through the budget process next year. They made it very clear that the price for this year would be increased to about $27,000 next year. So, but the recommendation of the Finance Committee was to support that bid. I think we've worked long and hard to get those services for our programs, and we should really make good on it.
One of the reasons I felt that the all-inclusive was so important was, I think, my children, when they went through the high school, had a full-time athletic trainer, Greg Tosi. And by having that one consistent person, they know how to deal with each one of the athletes if they should have an issue. It's not hit or miss. Somebody different is coming to every game. And I felt that that was probably the best use of our funds. And also that person becomes part of our athletic team, and that's really, really important. So that's why I made the recommendation that I did.
Same. She said it better than I could.
Mr. Higgins, would you just clarify, because I do hear what Mrs. Thomas is saying, but we are being guaranteed that we will get one consistent person?
Mm-hmm.
That's correct. One consistent person. Now, if that person has a scheduled vacation during the course of the year, remember, this is a full year position, they may substitute, but they will have, by us taking this proposal, they're able to hire full-time staff, so they can cover these events. If they weren't sure they were going to have that coverage, they wouldn't be able to provide it. So yes.
And so are we basically saying that, knowing going forward that next year will cost us more, they're basically subsidizing us this year so that we can get this program off the ground?
I think that's an accurate statement.
Yeah.
Because clearly this person's going to be paid more than $19,000 a year.
Well, it's a business model because, you know, if you have a student who's injured that does require services beyond what the trainer is able to provide on site, I'm sure the referral will be to their organization.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that's how all
Right.
of those trainers' programs work.
Right.
And that's fine. It's quality care. But I think for the, I hope I've answered your question first of all.
Yes.
Okay. But for the needs that we're looking for our student athletes, you know, I think we deal with it this year. And we go, I'm recommending that we go with what the Finance Committee has recommended. And through the budgeting process next year, we will work hard to make sure that we can find the funds to support an increase in price.
Right. I just wanted to really say that clearly, so that our viewing audience would hear, we are really getting a substantial discount or subsidy by going this route.
Mm-hmm.
Point well taken.
Motion?
I make a motion to accept the 2018 athletic trainer bid as presented and recommended by the Finance Committee.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion and consideration of the adult education diploma.
I have hard copies of them if anybody would like one. Everybody else set? So I'm coming to you all tonight because we've been functioning under an adult diploma program that we inherited, basically. And I have been wanting to come to you over the last several years to update it and go through a thorough process to do that. But because at the state level, they were in flux about the proficiency-based diplomas, they were putting our diploma plans on hold. And I got an email at the sort of late spring from this director that said that depending on how things worked out with the vote at the legislature, it would determine how things were going to go for adult education. if the proficiency-based diploma had gone through through the legislature, then all adult ed programs in the state were going to be required to meet the same standards for as the local high school. And there are advantages and disadvantages to that, and I would love and look forward to a long process of getting lots of stakeholders' input on that. But in the meantime, they said that the only way we could run a diploma program is if we had one approved by the local school board and the superintendent. So I got this information 2 weeks ago. I think it was 2 weeks ago. So I am here tonight to request that you approve the plan that we've been functioning under for this coming year, so that we can provide a diploma program to our students this year, with the understanding that over this year we'll embark on a more thorough process, well, I should say a thorough process for determining how the community of Ellsworth wants us to proceed in terms of an adult high school diploma. There are lots of different, I don't even want to get into it tonight unless you're interested, but it's kind of late in the night to do that. But there are lots of reasons to go in lots of different directions. So I would not want to make that decision on behalf of the school board or the community. So if you have any questions, please let me know.
So Annie, this diploma would be the same equivalency of like a traditional high school diploma?
Well, this one, so as an adult in Ellsworth, there are two ways to get your high school diploma. One is to take the high school equivalency test, which is what people are most familiar with. And the other is to literally take up where you left off in school. So if you had 17 credits from Ellsworth High School or any other high school in the country. In fact, we had a student from the Carleton Project last year. We look at how many credits they have, and we look at our requirements. Now, our requirements, if you look at this, are different than Ellsworth High School requirements. So currently, we issue, the Ellsworth School Department issues an adult high school diploma. So they're not the same requirements. Many of them are the same. If you look at them side by side, and Mr. Higgins took a close look at that, a lot of them are the same. We actually have some requirements that the high school doesn't have. An example of a way that we're different is that we require 2 credits in health and fitness. Maybe we switched it back to 1.5. I'm not positive, but in other words, it's health and fitness, because once you're an adult, they're the same thing, right? You're fit because you're, taking care of your health. But another one is that we have career pathways and technology for the workforce, basically. And so those are requirements that are not requirements of the high school, that we feel if somebody is an adult coming back for their diploma, they need to be able to have opportunity to learn how they're going to put that to work. So there are advantages, and there are lots of advantages to have the same diploma, but there are also reasons to have alternate pathways for adult students to have a separate one. So,
may I also add?
Yeah.
The other difference, in addition to what Annie's just saying, is in the number of electives that students have to have. I believe it's 8 at the high school, or it's 5 in the adult ed diploma, as is currently being done. But I really think, and actually it was less than 2 weeks ago that you got this information.
right.
But this is a conversation that we've been having for the past couple of years on where we go, but it has been kind of held up when you look at what's been taking place with the proficiency-based diploma discussion in Augusta. I believe that what our director is proposing is to approve these requirements, as we've been doing them since we've become Ellsworth again, for another year, and allow her to embark on a thoughtful process to determine what is the absolute best fit for our students. I would certainly ask you to support that. Excuse me.
I make a motion to accept the adult ed diploma and plan as presented and recommended by the adult education director.
I second that.
Discussion? All those in favor?
I have a handful of students that are gonna be very pleased when I tell them that you did that, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before the board moves to the next two items, I guess I would look to the Personnel Committee. With regard to item 12, is that something that we can do without going into executive session, negotiations update?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And my suggestion is we do item 12, and then before we go into executive session, maybe take a break so you can all have a chance to meet our teacher nominees.
Yes.
And then we can go into session, and everyone else can depart gracefully.
Item 12, negotiations update.
Yes, as I stated earlier in committee reports, there isn't anything new other than that we will be meeting with the administrative assistants tomorrow to resume negotiations after a hiatus of a number of weeks, so we're looking forward to that.
Got it? Okay.
Do you want to do calendar announcements?
I will do calendar announcements. I think I will. Okay. Policy committee meeting to be announced.
Yep, we haven't scheduled one yet, but I think the intent was at your next workshop to discuss a
Right.
couple of policies around fundraising and gifts and donations. And then we would have a better idea of when the policy committee would need to come together. And as I mentioned before, they've finished their triennial review, so the monthly meetings may not have to occur
Okay.
for a little while.
We have a school board workshop on Tuesday, August 28th, 2018, in the Ellsworth School Department Conference Room at 6 p.m. We have an Ellsworth School Board meeting on Tuesday, September 11th, 2018, here in the City Hall Council Chambers at 6:30. And before we go into executive session, we would like to meet our new staff and give you an opportunity to leave so you don't have to stay here all.